Hey guys, so when you thought that the New Jeans drama couldn't get any weirder or extended out, the girls of New Jeans this morning had their own version of a press conference on a YouTube Live. The backlash was horrible, so they actually took down that entire video and channel. They just kind of made up their own YouTube channel to do this special live broadcast. What were they talking about? Was it effective? Were they actually speaking independently as they claimed, or did it have the fingerprints of our favorite producer? So I want to approach this topic with a little bit of caution because, yes, we've handled the New Jeans members with a bit of kids' gloves to be very mindful of their ages. Now, they are, for the most part, all now officially adults. I like to call them college-age adults, except for one, the youngest member, Hein, who's just 16 years old. But on the whole, there has been some time that has elapsed, and I've asked before in other videos, when does that child get out of jail free card expire? And I think we've been perhaps looking at it the wrong way, because I was just thinking back onto my own personal life. Yes, I had been given the grace of being young, I think, from, a lot of mistakes or mishaps or missteps that I may have had in my life when I was young. But even though it seemed as if I was forgiven or overlooked, more times than not, I was still called out, which is, I think, the proper way that this reciprocity of generations or teaching, if they're not your physical parents, and especially I think this happens a lot in the workplace, which it looks like it's happening with the New Jeans girls, that the older people are forgiving, but they do have to call you out and make it a teachable moment. Where I've been seeing a difference these days, not on the whole, and you can't generalize all around the world, but a lot less. I've been seeing a lot of the older generation not do their responsibility of fixing the behavior or making it a teachable moment because they just don't want to get involved. It's like a lot of work. Like, why do you want to, it could expose you to liability. Like, the kids have to figure it out on their own. But when you really think about it, when I think about my own experience, I have learned a lot from being called out. And yes, I think there are certain people, personality types, maybe it's just my personality type, people always trying to call me out and make it a teachable moment. So I've been schooled since I was, a little kid, and not just in, the regular school of hard knocks, school of knick-knocks, school of knockoffs. I don't know, whatever kind of school it is, people always been trying to school me. And I think that has actually helped and given me a lot more experience. And so I want to approach their a little bit of a shocking press conference from that perspective, because in some ways I am impressed and proud of them for speaking up and for having this. If it was really their idea as they claimed, I like the gumption and I like sticking up for yourself. But what I don't like is, looks like they were spinning some tales, they were doing some manipulation, and it didn't look like they fully created the script all themselves, that they were essentially doing a press conference by proxy for Min Hee-jin. Min Hee-jin knows that she can't call up another press conference. And the types of options that are available to her are lowering it themselves in quality, which means that any kind of bold maneuver she does now carries a lot more risk because it's not as a high quality. And a lot of that high quality really depended on manipulating a trustful public or trustful person on the other side. Now that everybody is doubting her, it's become infinitely harder for her to pull stunts. And so instead of really advising the New Jeans girls on the next part of their journey, if she really had the mom mentality that she claimed, she would be doing that and guiding them, and definitely not having them do a press conference in this manner. Maybe they could be as bold as continue to do a press conference. I could have seen this live broadcast go a different way, but it was the New Jeans girls sacrificing themselves for the CEO. The way that the whole 30 minutes was framed, they said that this is essentially a message to HYBE and against HYBE and their gripes with HYBE, and their main purpose and request was for Min Hee-jin. It was all about bringing Min Hee-jin back as the CEO that she was of Ador. It was all about Min Hee-jin, with the added supplementary types of reasons for New Jeans. So that was really odd to me, because they should be advocating for themselves first and foremost, that the new leader or the director that, comes into their lives should have these certain sort of requirements. Not that you want, like, it's as if they got, they got divorced, and instead of saying what they want in their next partner, they keep saying, I want the divorced person to come back. It's a little bit odd, but it's not odd for a lot of you people who think that they are stuck in this Stockholm type of syndrome. So I want to, preface it with that, to be a little bit more generous. And I think their attitude, yes, was entitled, but I think that's a little bit too flippant, too diminutive to just say, oh, they're so entitled and they're spoiled and they're definitely having their brat summer. But I think the analogy is essentially their attitude is like a Nepo baby. And I know some, people are just like, well, what's wrong if my parents did that or not? That's not the issue. You can come from a long line of doctors and then, be the Nepo doctor, but do a great job. The part where I think the Nepo as a nepotism, the nepotism part fits in this scenario is that their attitude is based upon a power dynamic that Min Hee-jin is bringing to the table. That Min Hee-jin is essentially sort of like the person behind the scenes that is providing something of value to the power players in the organization that gives her children a benefit. But they think that all of these benefits are normal, and if they're taken away, why are you taking them away? That's not fair. How could you do this? Or when they are being outspoken and outlandish and complaining about things not being at a certain level, everybody else knows that it's only at a certain level because they're tolerating you, because the gravy's coming from somewhere else, up above, your so-called New Jeans mom. And they will entertain you as long as that gravy keeps coming. But as long as and when that gravy gets cut, then suddenly you're going to have to face the rules just like everybody else. And that's a bit of a jarring moment. And I think that's where these New Jeans girls are at, because there is a lot of rage. Rage from, I think, a little bit of entitlement. And usually that kind of rage, when, you say, oh, they're so entitled, from that entitled person's perspective, it's something unfair is happening, something unjust, something is taken away from them unfairly. And yes, it is being taken away. And for the rest of the world, it's being taken away fairly. But to them, they don't see it that way. They see that, like, I've always had this because I, deserve this, and now it's being taken away. And so I think that explains a bit of their tone. So we had 5 of them sit in this, it looks like a storage closet or a part of the practice room. And they were doing this, it looked like, to purposely say, because they did say that, we're doing this on our own. A lot of the staff are probably going to be surprised because they didn't know we were going to do this. All the while, they had like their notes. They had like their sections of what they were supposed to say scattered throughout. And it looked like there was a cue, or they had already determined which order they would speak. And they're going to go through the script from beginning to end. And that seems like it was definitely scripted. And there was no overlap. Usually if it's just like these girls getting together and they're like, we have something to get off of our chest, there would be like a lot of talking that would kind of clash into each other. 2 people would start at the same time, or they'd be like, oh, no, you keep going, or like none of that. It was point by point by point by point. Yes, the 5 girls could have gotten together and organized themselves, this 5-point, or the sequence of them, and what each one is going to talk about, so that they don't, interrupt each other. That's definitely plausible. But it did strike me as it was a lot more orchestrated than they had claimed. So, just a review. Heron, Hani, Hain, Danielle, Minji. Those are the 5 members of New Jeans. So, let's go through it. So Hain started by saying that they wanted to express their feelings about the recent incidents. They were really upset about the firing of Min Hee-jin as the CEO. And she said that we didn't want to show you the image of life under this kind of unfair demands and coercion. We were worried about the potential reaction of doing this and whether we'd be accused of doing this at the behest of Min Hee-jin. So already that makes it sus to me, because you tell the lie through this unprompted denial to get rid of the anxiety. You hit upon that first. Somehow I don't think a 16-year-old is going to be thinking along those lines and start their speech like that. So then, yes, if you notice that they are making it look like, though, that they did it themselves, with the supporting team of the doorknob and the light tripod, yes, as co-stars in this video. Well, Hain said that they're speaking out because they could no longer hide behind the screen of everybody else while everybody else, fights this out, especially with all the support from the bunnies. So they're acknowledging their fandom. And then they also said that, they just couldn't stay quiet, and they just got sick of hearing that, oh, this is adult people business, just wait. And it looked like they, I do believe them when they say that it looks like we can't wait, because we can't trust you. If we just wait, we're going to be outmaneuvered. We need to, and they say they gathered the courage to tell their stories directly, and that it's a matter of life and death to the 5 of them. They said the focus of their talk is ultimately about HYBE. They had a meeting with the new management. They expressed their opinions at the meeting, so they get into that, and they said that they felt like their opinions were not being heard by the new management, and that this is the only way that they wanted to express them. So obviously, well, thank you first of all for sharing some of the tea of what happened at the meeting from your perspective. But they're upset that the management is not doing what they want. They're upset that HYBE Corporate and Chairman Bang is not doing what they want. So they need to be called out on that. Yes, I admire their boldness for that, but they also need to be called out on that, and then see if they can come to resolution, or if they're smart enough to know that, well, they're not supposed to be doing that type of attitude. But if they were really smart and a little bit more mature and older, but if they're going to try to express their age by whatever, they need to know their leverage. And they do have some leverage that they can use. So then Min-ji says, not even the staff knows that we're doing this. I was like, oh, really, girl? She said, we don't know where to start, but we wanted to express our opinion so that you can understand. We can't go into all the contractual details, but we'll tell you as much as you can. There is a long wind-up, yes. In a lot of these difficult conversations in Korea, it's a wind-up. And in some ways, it's to gauge whether you, the listener, the audience, is ready to accept it or not going to do a backlash. They're just trying to read the room in the sense of read your face. But what it also does is that that kind of thing is accepted as being polite. But what it also does is leave the room open for a lot of manipulation, because you just tire the other person out. And eventually when it looks like, I'm just going to believe you because I'm so tired, just get to the point, just tell me, then they know they got you. So anyhow, so Min-ji was saying that after we formed a group and made New Jeans a business, the members and Min Hee-jin really got to know each other well. And, we were fearful of the world of adults doing business, but Min Hee-jin made it comfortable. She protected us from all these issues, including our debut. We were able to work well because of her. So immediately they're establishing that they were only able to start because of her. Danielle now takes the mic, and she says that it's only natural that we want to keep working with Min Hee-jin. So again, it's all about Min Hee-jin. We want our Min Hee-jin. Then she said, and then she went into English, her cute little Australian English accent. She said that, the world that we wanted to build together, the music that we wanted to make, our vision was so similar to Min Hee-jin's. And with her, we were able to prepare all the details with sincere hearts, and it shows in our work. And she kind of had this tone. It looked like she had memorized the script for running for student council president, but yeah, okay, we'll just let that go. And then she said that, we can only really sincerely work, basically you're only going to get the best out of us if we have Min Hee-jin, because we need people that we trust in to work with. And Min Hee-jin makes New Jeans who we are. So obviously we're seeing that there is a way super intricate tied concept in their minds that they are one with Min Hee-jin. So she said that she's integral to our identity. All feel that she is irreplaceable. So, on a practical note, I understand and I sympathize with Danielle's sentiments, especially since she's younger. It sounds like the New Jeans girls know that they're essentially nothing without Min Hee-jin. Maybe Min Hee-jin even planted that idea that it was all because of her, especially since Min Hee-jin's Kakao Talk messages basically said that from her own mouth and fingertips, saying that they don't do anything. I have created New Jeans. It's all my work and my creation. And so to a certain extent, I agree with Danielle or her sense of alarm that without Min Hee-jin, we're not going to be able to succeed. Our stuff is not going to look good. We're not going to get the best songs. We're not going to get the best choreographers. We're not going to get the best fashions and, the whole system. She thinks that they're not going to get the best. And to some certain extent, I think that does make sense for her to be alarmed. But on the other hand, the girls are not talentless, and they have a certain reason why they're in the K-pop industry and have garnered a large fandom. they need to give themselves a little bit more credit for their own talent, their hard work, and the process of artistic development. I think they need to reconfigure in their minds what it means to develop as an artist. As a K-pop idol, you're put into a factory, and you're only as good as your factory assembly line, which in this case is Min Hee-jin. So in some ways that makes sense for them to be worried suddenly their factory is not factorying, and they think that they're just gonna be dead. On the other hand, that is a very artificial way of accelerating the artistic development process and, getting you out the door, and it has its pros and cons. Right now, it looks like there's an opportunity for them to really develop themselves as regular, true artists. In that way, in the end, you actually have more power and you're not addicted to a factory system that has to be run by foreman Min Hee-jin. Now, Heron said, after we debuted, there are so many things that were completely irrational and unfathomable that happened to us more and more. And it's like, yeah, welcome to working in Korea. This is where I think we start probably seeing the Korean public have less sympathy, because they're just like, yeah, welcome to the world of work. And they said, like, some of you may already know, but some videos from our training days and medical records were made public. Okay, I don't know what medical records they're talking about. And then the training day videos are like the very good practice dance videos that they also release all the time, and they have like basically twisted BTS members' arms to participate in as part of like the promotion, and it's not their copyright. That was done by Source Music, where they were being trained and being subsidized, and their training was given to them. Outside of this K-pop system, everybody has to pay for their own dance class. They have to pay for, eventually the K-pop idols sort of pay for their stuff, and sometimes at inflated rates, but they don't have to front all of the costs. They don't have to invest in all of the training. And then in a world outside of K-pop, you can invest in all of that and then still be told no and never have a career, be shut out after the audition. But here they know that it's a sure thing. They're gonna get a debut. So then they said like, oh, Min Hee-jin was fired and we don't know who to rely on or trust anymore. If we didn't speak up like this, no one would know we were going through this. So we discussed this and gathered the courage. So I like the sentiment that they gathered the courage. But on the other hand, again, I think people are looking at this being like, okay, little kids, like, if your boss gets fired, you don't go and cry and say like, I don't know who to trust anymore. I don't know if I could do my job. You literally, people do the opposite of what you're doing. They are literally, if your boss gets fired in the real world, then you go and may immediately find the new boss and say like, okay, I am here with you, you can count on me. I am going to be part of your team. You're not saying like, oh, this new boss, no, I don't like this new boss. I want my old boss back. That's how it sounds. Then Honey said that I've gone through a few incidents lately. Yeah, this is the makeup studio story. She said the 4th floor of HYBE is where we get our hair and makeup done. It's a place where tons of other artists and people are going to and fro. And I was waiting alone in the hallway and the other artists and the managers came by, and yes, we exchanged greetings. So that part seemed like it was okay. And then she said when they came out, that's when something bad happened. And then when they came out, Honey said, the manager said, ignore her. And the actual verb in Korean is 그냥 무시하라고, 무시해. And this is super sus, the way that she is describing this incident, because given the track record of lying and manipulating from the New Jeans world and Ador under Min Hee-jin, this can go either way, because the way that Honey is
describing it was as if the manager of the other group, probably Islet or Le Seraphim or some other HYBE group that don't like them, but everybody don't like them. If it was unprovoked, and the manager's like, oh, we should just like ignore her, she's nothing, like that's what Honey is trying to say happened, that this was like unprovoked and it was all about, demeaning and degrading Honey, being saying like she's nothing, let's go. However, the way that it sounds, and especially if a manager is telling the artist, they're usually trying to keep them in line. The way that I think that I would have to ask the other artist for their side, because what I expect as a possibility of the word, like if the manager definitely did say 그냥 무시하라고, it could be that Honey or New Jeans or somebody else pissed off somebody. Like there was this artist that was mad and that she was just about to open up a can of whoop ass in the hallway, and then the manager was saying like 그냥 무시해, let it go. In that case, that same word has more of a connotation of let it go, ignore it, it's not worth it, girl, like one of those things. So did Honey give them a dirty look? Did Honey say something snide? Did Honey steal some of their outfits, or spread oil or Vaseline on some of their costumes? Honey, if you haven't been in the whole like drama world or broadcast world, all those things, not an exaggeration. And so are they mad about something, and then the manager is saying like, stiff upper lip, be the bigger person? Who knows? And so Honey was trying to make this a sob story. Even if it was totally true and the manager was really mean like that, you're in for a lot more than that if you stay in the K-pop world. All right, then Minji says, I was really shocked after hearing what Honey went through. How could a manager do that in front of everybody so that she could hear? This is unimaginable behavior. No apologies, no admission of guilt. And how many more incidents like this is going to happen in the future? You really have to ask that question. So she's saying like, there's no one protecting us. Will we be ostracized forever? In some ways, I think they do understand a bit of what's going on in HYBE and where their present status is. It seems as if you want to survive in an organization like HYBE, you do need somebody of power always taking care of you and rooting for you, and managing the internal wars over resources and just fighting, even though it's supposed to be collaborative. But in their world, it's more of like we need to take as much as we can. Who cares if there's nothing left for everybody else? You need somebody like that. And for them, Min Hee-jin was that person. And for them, Min Hee-jin did a great, stellar job at bringing home the bacon. So in that sense, they understand that. But in another way where I think they should take this as a learning moment is that instead of really going to bat for Min Hee-jin, understand why she is so hated. And then you would see like, okay, it's not smart for us to stay linked with Min Hee-jin. Let's try to find somebody else who's a great sponsor, who has a lot of power, who is going to look after us in the HYBE organization, not cuss everybody out, alienate everybody else out, and then definitely leave themselves alone and vulnerable because nobody wants to touch them. And after this little live, definitely they have committed career suicide, particularly in HYBE, because nobody's going to want to go to bat for somebody. We'll go into some of the other comments later where they straight up insult to the nth degree. Then Honey says, I hope this doesn't happen to anyone else, the fourth floor makeup studio incident. But since it happened to me, I'm worried it will happen to the other girls. It's really scary. And I told the new CEO, but she said I have no evidence, that's too late, and she just tried to move on with the conversation. But then it made me realize there's nobody here to protect us. There's nobody here that really cares about us. And I said that to her frankly, but she made me feel like I was the liar. So you can see this CEO absolutely does not trust Min Hee-jin and the New Jeans girls, probably with very good reason. It's better for her to err on the side of not trusting, because we saw what happened when Bang Si-hyuk and everybody else erred on the side of trusting Min Hee-jin too much. She probably tried to run away with everything. And so Honey's just like, oh, she's making me feel like I'm the liar, like she doesn't believe her. Given your situation and your track record, and you know what you've done before, you should expect this. And instead of complaining like this, you should be trying to establish trust with the new CEO. This is what happens when you break trust in any environment, especially in a corporate life. The onus and the responsibility is on you to prove that you can be trustworthy again, because usually you don't even get this chance. You're gone. You're fired. You are out the door. All the stuff that everything, like, you wouldn't even be here. And that's why I bring up this Nepo baby type of analogy, because normal people in this situation would not even be given a second chance. Now, Minji comes back and she's saying, I'm worried about my future, but I'm more scared about the copyright infringement on the works we've produced until now. So now she's trying to be a lawyer. And she says, there have been people who put their lives on the line to create works for us. It's so obvious. How could they treat us like this? So she's kind of equating like, they worked so hard, so why are you treating people like this? You as in the new management of Ador and HYBE, and she is referring to specifically the music video director, that hoopla. And it's becoming very clear that the music video director also seems to be have been roped in by Min Hee-jin, because loyalty to Min Hee-jin is to a certain extent understandable, because getting great jobs from Min Hee-jin, so you're going to be loyal. But you can't, if you're not a full A-grade psychopath, don't try to copy the psychopath. And I think he was trying to have his Min Hee-jin moment by trying to play with the half-truth. Yes, HYBE said, take down the music video that you have on your own on channel, because you uploaded the director's cut, which was not approved by anybody, because it had some images that made the sponsor Apple look bad. Apple doesn't like it. Apple doesn't want it out there. And, that whole concept of the music video was filming on the phone and stuff like that. So I guess they didn't want certain images on their phone, which were in the director's cut. So they said, just take that down and really Adore type property stuff, but leave up all the, the other stuff. That's your stuff. But he was like, they made me take down all my videos and, everything, this bullying by HYBE. And then HYBE repeatedly clarified, saying no, it's just the things that really are about the corporate life, and then he has his channel back up. So obviously, yeah, he was making a bigger deal out of this. But here, even after this was publicly resolved, Minji's still sticking to this story of this bullying of this music director, particularly with his YouTube channel. If you're going to keep your word and not interfering with production, then this is an issue with the music video director Shin that would have never have happened. So now they're trying to somewhat, this is why I think it's a Min Hee-jin type thing, because this is sort of like a half-baked thing. And if you're not Min Hee-jin, kind of saying the stuff that half make sense on paper, but if you say it, it looks really like, oh my God, like you gotta believe her, then it doesn't register because it sort of doesn't make sense. So I obviously what I think she's trying to do is say like, look, you're saying that you gotta divide production and management, and that therefore that's why you had to kick Min Hee-jin out as CEO and make her just focus on production. However, but things like this happening shows that the current management can't handle overseeing production, or like convoluting this whole thing. But the main point that she's trying to make is saying that we need Min Hee-jin back, and we need her back as head of production and head of management. Then Honey said, our media content and creative production is very important for our color and image. Despite saying you're going to leave the creative production to Min Hee-jin, they infringed our content. So do you see like how like even though the actual reasons and arguments are half-baked, the overall structure of this 12-course meal is there. And I don't think that a 16-year-old to I don't know, the oldest one maybe is 20-year-old can do something like this altogether, especially because it's flowing from one kind of point to another. We need to have Ador back where business management and creative production were not separated. So you see like how like it doesn't make sense what they're saying, but the actual declaration of what we want is extremely clear. And usually kids aren't good at that. They're mixing up things. Okay. Minji then says, in addition to what we've brought up, there are many things that we can't just make sense out of. Is HYBE really a company that cares about new jeans? So now they're trying to flirt with the idea, I think, of like leaving or, saying like, let us go, like, no contract, something like that, or we're going to stage a strike. And they're saying like, is HYBE really a company that cares about new jeans? We have our doubts, we have clear evidence, but we won't say it today because we don't know how big of an issue it would create. So they're basically threatening, saying like, oh, we got some dirt, but it might just be sand from a playground. And then they said like, oh, I hope you guys can understand how we came to sit here before you today to tell you our side. Then Danielle says, now it seems like they're trying to get to the conclusion, which is a really shocking conclusion. So I said before, our dream was to make music with Min Hee-jin, and we worked really hard to do that, but now poof, it's gone. And we might not be able to even accomplish what we've set out and planned. And then she said, just like Honey said, the content we released was solely for our fans, our bunnies. It was instantly erased. But no, it's back up there, girl. Just check the YouTube channel. She's like, I don't understand how anybody could do this to a group or anyone in general. We're just trying to make our dreams come true. This is where she's like, Evita for student council president. And then she said, did we do anything wrong? And then suddenly in a week, we've been cut off from working with our CEO and music video director. So it seems as if this was kind of like the Thick as Thieves partnership, the CEO, music video director. That's really who is making this star power of New Jeans. And she says like, without them, we don't know what's going to happen to us. We feel so much anxiety. If you really want to put your artist first, don't just say it and just leave us alone the way it was. Now, Ador is now under new management looking towards the future, and they're definitely not going to want to do the way things were done. So you got to get on board with where the train is moving next to the next future station. It's not going back to the past. But what they're trying to do is advocate we need the way that it was in the past to come back again, which who benefits the most from that? It is Min Hee-jin. Again, if these girls really were told, frankly, I think, to have more faith in themselves, they would realize they don't need Min Hee-jin. They are obviously coachable enough. They follow directions well enough. They can find probably somebody even better than Min Hee-jin to take them to a higher level with a lot less baggage and drama and bad karma following them. Then Herin says, I want to work with people I can feel mentally safe around and people who give me life, but there's constant forces disturbing us. I don't get it. I don't think I should be required to understand it. So we see in Herin a very stubborn attitude, like, I'm not going to understand because I don't think you're right. You're never going to be right in my mind. I'm right. But she does it under the guise of the Korean way of saying, I don't understand how this could be or happen. And the reason why that is tricky is that in some ways it is essential for you to say, I don't understand. When you're essentially making an accusation, a lot of the times when you don't want to get threatened by somebody who has a lot of power, instead of outright accusing somebody in power, you make this statement where people understand like what you're accusing, but then you say, I don't understand how this can happen. And then so people in the outside of Korean culture would be like, oh, why are they talking, like making the final thing where you're supposed to like do the stab like really weak? Like, I don't know who would do this, or but that's what they're essentially saying is like, we all know who did this, but I'm just not allowed to say. The way that she's talking, though, sounds similar, which tricks you into thinking like, oh, I should respect or understand what she's saying. But really what she's saying is not that. She's just basically saying, because she's already made the clear accusation, she's saying, I'm not even gonna try to understand your point of view. And I think that is a very dangerous position to take, especially in somebody so young. So that's going to really put a cap on how much she can grow and develop. Then Hain says that I found out about Min Hee-jin's firing that day through the news. It was all of a sudden. It was unimaginable, very embarrassing. A unilateral move by HYBE made me conclude that the company doesn't respect us at all. Amidst the chaos, our manager said that the new CEO wanted to meet us. Now she's painting this meeting as very negative. Although if the new CEO didn't immediately on that day meet with New Jeans, they would be complaining about that too. So the new CEO met with them immediately, and Hain said that, oh, after coming to Ador, she didn't make us feel like we mattered. Make us feel. What did she actually do, girl? But you're saying like it made us feel. And then she said the newly installed Chu-young Nim. That, okay. At this point, if you were a little iffy about, if you were Korean public, iffy about them, this is when I think you started to get mad. If you are mainstream Korean, throughout this whole press conference, even when they were speaking English, they would, instead of saying Min Hee-jin's name, even just Min Hee-jin, they would be like Min Hee-jin 대표님, to be very respectful. 대표님 means CEO. In Korea, it's very rude if your boss is Min Hee-jin, is her name, and even if you put 님 at the end, which is an honorific in some way, it's sort of like Mr., Mrs., like a little bit honorific, but 대표님 is basically like with the title, like Mr., Mrs. CEO Min Hee-jin. Like they're always trying to say that. Here, they're not even saying her last name, Kim Ju-young name. They just said Ju-young 님. Instead of, no, she's now your new CEO. So you should be calling her Kim Ju-young 대표님. Oh, I bet all the Korean people just went livid at that. And Hain is the 16-year-old. She's the youngest. So for the youngest person to do that in the group, instantly, I think there would be so much hate coming their way. And then she started getting all mad. She's saying like, you know, before the comeback of New Jeans, you said that you were going to help with the marketing, but instead you fired our CEO, released articles, and said crap about us to the outside world. Your bad behavior. How was it for New Jeans? We want to know and ask you again. So this was a very aggressive kind of like call you out to the new CEO. And not only that, I've told you this in other videos, like the way you say somebody's name is really important
in Korea. And if you don't do it well, you get really penalized. And especially if you know what you're doing. And obviously, they know what they're doing because Min Hee-jin has always been in this interview or this press conference in this YouTube live. Min Hee-jin 대표님, 우리 대표님. Ugh. All right, so then Minji says it's already been almost half a year where we have to deal with all these tiring stories of new jeans. And as someone who's involved, my heart hurts, even though it probably bothers people who are like an outsider to this. We want to keep working together. What we've created so far wouldn't be possible without like Min Hee-jin, and it's making us feel hopeless. So again, they feel like they can't succeed without Min Hee-jin. They should have, again, more respect in themselves. They can probably do it better with somebody else. Then Henny says, we have the choice on how to react. Now, this is like her rebellion again. She's saying like, we don't have to follow HYBE's every order blindly. Uh-oh. Mutiny. This is the worst thing to say. Yeah, we're not going to follow every order from HYBE. And then she said, oh, we're aware that this is getting in the way of our work. We should be treated much better than how we're being treated now. It's hard to believe that they're sincere about wanting to help us and to be able to continue to work without Min Hee-jin 대표님. So they just use the honorific. And they said that they just want her legal conflicts to end. And it's not realistic for her to do all of her creative planning work in the next 2 months with the contract, that they're talking about. They want to have, she said, we want to have our working environment return back to normal, the way it was before. Hae-in picks up the ball, says, HYBE is not setting up a proper working environment. Please stop blocking our way. Bring our CEO back into her position. Not with people we don't know. We want the old Ador that we know. We're not asking for better treatment. Now, this is when I think she completely lost the entire Korean public. She said, just stay in your own lane and do a good job. We'll stay in our lane and do a good job too. Now again, she's 16, born in 2008. If any 16-year-old said this, I think no matter what country you're in, even the most Western, liberal, leaning environment, at minimum, it is rude. In a Korean environment, you're gone. You are XXXXXX gone. Especially with the way that she said it in Korean. 그냥 각자의 자리에서 자기의 할 일을 잘 하면 될 것 같아요. Literally, just stay in your own seat and do a good job. I think that would be best. Then Danielle says, from a human point of view, we hope you will stop tormenting Min Hee-jin. Honestly, I feel so bad for our CEO, and it looks like HYBE is just an inhumane corporation. What can we learn from watching a company like this? Now, Danielle just pulled like a Don Lemon. When Don Lemon antagonized Elon Musk and lost the progression. It wasn't a signed deal, but the deals was progressing along. Oh my God. How are you're literally like, what can we learn from you? This corporation. And you guys are being so inhumane. We don't like it. And then you're asking for the CEO, your old CEO who is manipulating and stealing from the company to come back? And asking the same people that you say that you just, don't respect at all to do that for you? And why are they not listening to you? That's cuckoo. All right, so now Minji says, what we want is, because she thinks like she's the mafia now, Min Hee-jin to return to her role as CEO in charge of both management and production. That's what Ador truly is. This is how we request to move forward without fighting with HYBE. Oh, so now they're making threats. She thinks she's part of the mafia. She said, if our message has been clear, Chairman Bang and HYBE should by September 25th, she's giving a time deadline, wisely return Ador to its original management and state. Like, if you know what's good for you. Now, this is more than being bigger than your britches, okay? And we know some of those K-pop outfits can be small, but she completely crossed the line. So much insolence. I don't think they're going to be able to survive this. This was earth-shatteringly rude at the end. So if anybody followed along, definitely the people at HYBE would have followed along all the way to the end. There's no hope for them now. Good luck trying to book a hair and makeup appointment on the 4th floor, okay? They're going to be sending you to the 4th floor in Pyongyang. You're not going to get anything did. So did you guys see this train wreck? Let me know what you think. Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.